Is it live yet? It's
Yeah. So I've heard that apparently it does get started right away, but like I have the Hangout pulled up and I can never tell. But hey, welcome to the after party, friends. Hope y'all are having a good night.
Hi.
We have a special guest here in the after party who's here to defend herself, I suppose.
I mean, I'm indefensible. I mean, honestly, we fall into the whole oh god, how does this sound? Like, because I'm in my echoey room. Oh jeez.
You sound fine on my end. I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but you should be fine.
All right. I mean, like, I personally just I don't identify as ace, but about the same time that Tria was coming to question her sexuality, I was also coming to, like, I was trying to find research and resources to, like, define my own sexuality. Which is when, like, I found, like, there was this whole, like, slew of terms out there that people were using and that people were, like, coming to accept. I was like, have you seen this?
How close were you to duct taping me to a chair and forcing me to watch it?
And she was like, yeah, you know, and I was like, no, you must look at this. It will make you feel better, because it made, like, because I come from the pan spectrum. I consider myself pansexual. Like, my attractions don't, like, it's just like, if I find a person attractive, I find them attractive, and then that's how I go. But I was just like, I, for the longest time, always felt broken. Like, I was like, because I was like, I mean, I don't think I'm straight, but I'm not sure I'm gay, because I like everything. Like, and a lot of the times when I was in high school, I was like, no, there's only one or the other. Like, because I also went to a Catholic middle school, kindergarten through 8th grade, growing up, and you were straight. That's all there was.
Yeah.
And if you were anything else, you were straight, and that's all there was. is how it goes. And so it was kind of like, I would talk to Tria often about, like, my own confusion with my own, like, sexuality and where I was. And then it often, like, reflected what she was going through. Like, I mean, like, we're obviously on, like, opposite ends, but we obviously, like, felt at the same time that we were doing something wrong.
Yeah, like, it's really, really weird. We've, and like I've said, we've known each other since high school. So, like, we both know each other's patterns over a period of, like, what's it been, like, 20 years?
16. 17.
Yeah, 16, 17 years. And so, like, it's so weird that both of us felt so broken, but we never really talked about it until you were in your late 20s, I was in my early 30s.
Yeah.
I think is when we actually started putting all the pieces together.
Right.
And like I said previously, I feel like we should be able to figure all of this stuff out when we're, like, teenagers to college age years, not be figuring this stuff out in our 30s.
I'm from the South, and my girlfriend and I have a podcast because my girlfriend and I were high school sweethearts. My girlfriend is a YouTuber herself, but she only has a handful of videos. She is a super cool pagan who is bisexual. She and I have a podcast for a range of reasons. And one of the things we talked about was sex education. We went to the same high school. That was how we met. That was how we started dating. But we had very different experiences in middle school. Because I'm an Army brat, I grew up in a whole bunch of different countries. And because the place that I should have been getting my sex education should have been in middle school, I only got 1 year of sex education my entire life, and that was 8th grade. And they just sort of assumed that, like, at that point, everyone knew stuff. So I told the story in the podcast, but I'll tell the story here to illustrate just how ignorant of sex I was in, like, 10th grade. My mom asked me once where babies came from. She wanted to know what I knew, because I had mentioned to her that I didn't really have, like, much sex ed, because the school that I went to in middle school didn't have it. And then in 8th grade, they just sort of assumed. I said something incredibly stupid, so this is part of the reason why I'm delaying this so long. I told her that a guy sticks his penis in a lady's butt, and that's how she gets pregnant, which is not how it happens. If this is the first you're ever hearing that, that's not how sex works.
I have a very similar story to yours.
That actually makes me really feel better, because in the podcast was the first time Anna ever heard that story. So
my story goes, we had a pool in my backyard that, like, it was an in-ground pool, and me and my friends would go swimming in it all the time. And oh god, for some reason there was, like, a group of us in the pool, and one of them, like, made a joke that they peed in the pool, like, real gross, you know. But we were like 8 years old. And one of my other friends was like, oh my god, we have to get out of the pool. I don't want to get pregnant. And even at 8 years old, I was like, what? What are you talking about? And she's like, that's what my parents told me, that it's something that comes out of a man's penis and it goes into a woman. And the only thing she knew of that did that was pee.
In fairness, like, there is a certain logic to that, and also that's basically the plot line of one of the major things in Glee. I grew up watching Glee. It was like a really big show where I was from, because I went to a middle and high school that had really big theater programs. And one of the plot points in Glee is that a character gets pregnant because she cheats on her significant other, but she tells her significant other, with whom, also, I love it when Tria's, like, audio just drops, so she just leaves. That's the thing that happened just now, in case you're curious. What happens in it is the excuse that she tells her boyfriend, who has never had sex with her, is that, like, because he orgasmed in the hot tub, she got pregnant because of that. And that was not what happened.
But yeah, no, immediately after my friend told me that, I went to my mom. And I was like, if a boy pees on you, can you get pregnant? And my mom was like, what? And I was like, that's what she told me. That's what her parents told her. And then she had to go to my best friend, and when I was 8 years old at the time, she had to go to their parents and be like, you need to tell your daughter it's not pee. We don't need this.
This lie cannot stand.
My sex education was basically, there are ways to prevent getting pregnant. I will tell you when you get married.
Oh no.
At the very least, it's not the sex education from Mean Girls, where it's like, don't have sex, you will get pregnant, get gonorrhea, and die.
They'll die.
Yvonne's asking the real questions in the comment section. Does one need to be baptized if they're the results of a pool pregnancy? And actually, biblically, you can't go to heaven if you are the results of a pool pregnancy and you're the result of, like, people who aren't married. So
I mean, I feel that hits, like, immaculate conception. So
I mean, honestly, same. Like, I agree, but, like, no, there is.
But only married people. Only married people get that.
No, like, for real though, there is a verse in the Old Testament. It's Old Testament, so some Christians are just gonna be like, oh, it's just for Jewish folks, it's not for us. But there is a verse in the Old Testament that's like, yo, if you're the results of, like, two people who aren't married having sex, you can't go to heaven. Neither can any of your kids, including and past the 10th generation. So, like, this is an actual thing in the Bible. Like, this isn't coming from nowhere.
Oof. I didn't catch that one, but then again, we don't ever really focus on the Old Testament that much. Like we do on like I did get some smatterings of like the New Testament, but it was kind of like the Old Testament kind of contradicts us, so we're gonna act like that's not there.
If someone in the comment section could be an absolute unit and like look up the exact verse that I just mentioned, that'd be great. I know it's in the Old Testament, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. And if I look it up, I can guarantee people are going to hear me typing, which annoys both me and them. So.
I agree with Mark. Like I really think that we need to have comprehensive, real sex education. And we need to find ways for religious folks to not come up with super dumbass exemptions, because unfortunately, due to how many people identify as Christian, even if we put sex education in school and got away with it, there would still be parents going, well, I want my kid exempt for reasons.
Ooh.
And it's really unhealthy. I shouldn't have learned how sex works from my first boyfriend.
Yeah.
I should not have, and he was not a good person to learn from.
So I can't say the actual, like, I can't spell the actual Bible book, but it's the book of Deuteronomy. I think it's verse 23. No, it's chapter 23, verse something. But in it, there's a section that talks about like how if you're a bastard kid, that's a really light way of saying that, but I am a historian, so I feel like people can cut me a little bit slack here. Like if you're the child who was born out of wedlock, then you're basically screwed when it comes to getting into heaven. Also, thanks guys, folks just now commented it in the little chat so people can see it. But yeah, this is like an actual thing in the Bible.
I mean, some of the things in there like that I never knew, and I wish I knew the verse myself, but somebody pointed me to a verse that said in the early church that if you were handicapped, you were not allowed to go to church services.
That's one I'm unfamiliar with, but it sounds like I know that it's true. It's just like I can't remember the exact verse off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's also I think around the same one that says that if you have a problem with your sexual parts, like if they're broken in any way, including castration, that you're also not allowed. It's like you almost have to be as close to a perfect human body as possible. And I was just like, oh, that hurts.
Right.
Like ugh.
There's a verse, and it's like one of those really famous verses that the people who write like the Evil Bible website really like talking about, which is the reason I can like remember it so clearly. There's a verse that talks about how if a lady accidentally, like if her husband's dueling someone, or if her husband's in conflict with someone, and she accidentally like grabs the part, the manly part of the body, so to speak, she has to like chop off her hand. And it's so ridiculous that like it's really easy to remember, because there's also Bible verses that talk about like how you can't drink the blood, like you can't drink human blood. And it's like, I don't know if this is something that like people really needed to know.
There's some oddly specific things in the Bible that were like, did something happen to you?
Is this a rule? Like, was there a condition wherein some people got together? It's like, yeah, this rule, this is going in the Bible.
Like, I think I remember the one where it was like, if people show up drunk at your house, in order to save your brother from being raped by them, you have to throw your wife and daughter at them instead.
That was there's a section that talks about that in the Old Testament, in like the story before Sodom and Gomorrah, the like background, and that's the actual thing that caused the city to be like burned down. Christians like to be like, oh, it's because there was, you know, LGBT stuff going on. Nah, that's not what happened.
No,
I mean, there was, but that wasn't like the thing.
Yeah, but I was always just like, that's a very specific occasion where what? Why is this happening?
Yuriv is in the comments. She's in the chat, or they're in the chat saying, y'all remember the story where a dude was cursed because he saw his drunk uncle naked? My favorite Bible story is the story of Samson, where it's like a dude with like gorgeous flowing locks. His power is in his locks. And because he tells a lady, like he tells like this woman he falls in love with about his hair, she cuts it off and he dies. And that's just, it's just a great story.
It's so good.
This is a very like specific after party. I'm a big fan. I just didn't think that's the direction we were gonna go in.
You never can tell when Capserphine walks in what things are gonna happen.
Y'all should have like a little Google Hangout series on your channel. That would be filled with wonderful chat.
just us being random.
And honestly, that's me. Like my best YouTube friend is a YouTuber named Wonder Lady, and that's basically what we do. We have a little bit of planning like every Wednesday. This Wednesday, we're gonna be doing something super different. So I hope folks who are here go over to Wonder Lady's channel and check us out tomorrow. It's gonna be around the same time, but like we talk about like things, and then we always go off in random tangents. And the after parties are especially hilarious.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, our tangents get kind of dangerous.
We were making fun of the Flat Earth Research Society before YouTubers caught on and started making fun of the Flat Earth Research Society.
I just get so mad at them.
You know, after the Harry Potter thing that we went to, one of them tried to approach me with Amber in the wheelchair. I was like, look, I'm not for physical violence, but if you try to use this wheelchair against us, you are going to regret it.
Someone's gonna get yeeted over here.
We're gonna yeet you off the edge of the world, okay? Just to test your theory.
I don't normally do after parties on my channel. So I had a live stream series for a couple of months that I did like every Monday. I'm a graduate student studying peace and conflict studies, and I started doing after parties, which were really fun. But like I'm a very unsocial person. And for me, like being social, I'm an extremely introverted. And for me, like even this is being social. So for me, like I have a certain level of energy. And it's like I gotta work to like conserve that energy, but I really like being social. It's just that like I need to expand.
I don't know. I kind of like the term spoons, but I don't know whether it's okay or not for me to actually use it. But it's just like you have a certain level of energy for different things, and different things are gonna affect you in certain ways. Like I can spend time with friends that I love. No matter how bad off I'm doing, it's like, I don't care. You can call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. But if you're not one of my friends, I'm like, I've spent 5 minutes with you and I want to run away now. Thanks.
I like the one where they talk about spoons as spell slots, where they're your cantrips for the day. Like, get up, get dressed.
So
do the dishes.
I just heard what you said, and I didn't understand that you were making a D&D reference until you said cantrips. So I heard you say spell sloths like the animal. I was like,
oh no.
I do a D&D.
That's a very different.
I do D&D twice a week, most weeks, and I do it with Godless Cranium, who, for those of you who are like new to like the secular sphere, is he's a fairly popular YouTuber. He has 30,000 subscribers, and he is super nice. Actually, no, he has more than 30,000 subscribers. One of his pals is Essence of Thought, who has 30,000, and they're both in the stream. And it's a lot of fun because we just sort of goof around, and we're playing Lost Mines of Philandian, which is an extremely deadly D&D campaign, especially because it's marked as for level 1. It's really not.
No.
To put it in perspective, the first like little encounter is two separate encounters. The first little battle in terms of like chronological order, it's two separate battles, possibly three, depending on like how long each of your sessions are. At the end of that little session, half of our team had been wiped out.
Oh no.
We had to build new characters, which was fine. We play, the channel is Alignment Unknown for anyone who's interested in D&D streams. And I also play a game series called Chaotic Roll, which is a homebrew campaign with Zalrock Chaos and a couple of other folks. And in that one, I'm very much like a roleplay person. But in Lost Minds, because Lost Minds is so deadly, I am like the tank. And being the tank in a session where everything's out to kill you sucks. Also, Zal, our DM, just hopped on. Zal, say hi and plug. Let me make you a mod so that way you can actually plug. There, go ahead and plug your Twitch, pal, so that way people can watch Chaotic Roll. I think I said it right. I'm bad at pronouncing words in English.
Very nice. Now, I will say I'm doing this on my phone, so I can literally only see the Hangout or the live stream, not both at the same time. So
I'll let you know if there's anything you need to see.
Okay, thank you. Be my guide. Be my guide, Tria.
So I have no idea how to say the name that's been spelled there. Can you do me a favor and pronounce it for me?
Calves are fine?
That. I am not going to be able to say that name.
Okay. I came up with it when I was 12, and it is a combination of caffeine and surge. Calfsir. Fine.
Okay, I can say that. Calfsir. So some folks are hopping in now, including my like constant YouTube partner, Wonder Lady. If y'all have any questions for any of us, feel free to ask. Every person here is queer, which is pretty neat. That's not always the way it goes in my after parties, but I like that that's the way it is today.
Yeah. We're keeping it extra spicy for you.
There is apparently a no straights sign allowed on it. It's not my purpose. I didn't mean for it to be this way, but sometimes it'd be like that.
Well, okay, to be fair though, I didn't let you know because I didn't want to drop details on my best friend without her permission.
I am an open book.
I realized that, but at the same token, there's a difference between knowing that and actually having the granted permission.
Yeah.
Very true. Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, do you want to be a YouTuber? Is that of interest to you?
It's sometimes, but I always my thing is very similar to what you were talking about, where it's very like I delve and dip my toes into several different interests, like nerdy things, video games, Star Trek, Star Wars. Like I like so many different things that I don't know what to focus on.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm pan and poly and queer and just kind of out there. Yeah. And I like a lot of things, but then it's like, what do I want to talk about? Do I want to talk about
like on my channel you can find different things and the order is like, unless you're on a playlist, the order is very much not in order. So like if you go back, my first videos on this particular YouTube channel, although I had a YouTube channel when I was 13 that there are still videos on, those are very bad videos, by the way. People can find them. I'll advertise them. I have no problem. But like I was singing, and spoiler alert, I can't sing. So
everybody thought they could sing at that age.
And the thing is, most people didn't have YouTube channels. Like throughout 99.999% of history, most people didn't have YouTube channels. So I actually could delete them. I just don't feel. I feel like that would be like lying to people because I want to run for office and like I'm very open. So I'm like, yeah, I'll leave these up so that way people can see them.
And honestly, like somebody has your videos saved somewhere just in case you get famous. So that the moment you do like an ad campaign, they can like throw it at the local news going, look at him! Look at him at 13.
Look at this little loser singing a song about alcohol. I sang, so like me and a friend of mine sang a cover of TikTok.
Oh God.
My friend was younger than I am, but my friend doesn't want to be famous. So like he doesn't care about the fact that that's up there. And I think it's funny. Like
You
no,
promoting
I'm promoting it because like it doesn't bother me. If people are like, "Ha, you're so embarrassed by this," I'm like, "I'm really not. I talked about this in live streams, guys."
No, I'm just saying that they come through promoting underage drinking.
I'm kind of glad that I didn't really hop on the internet much until after high school, because most of the embarrassing high school crap, the only person who has that information is Katie.
I know all the secrets.
I am the keeper of the secrets.
And I know her, she'll be like, I'm not going to drop this right at the beginning. I'm going to wait and hold it over your head, and you're going to do me favors.
Oh, come now.
I mean, like, so for me, the whole thing is like, I have my name. If something is or was written by me in the internet, it's probably attached to my name. So like, there's one fan fiction account that doesn't have my name in it, and like, I've written some pretty spicy fan fictions that are like very much not safe for work. And like, I'm over here like, no, I don't want anyone who comes after me when I run for office to be able to be like, surprise. Like, no, that's not gonna work for me.
We found the good sauce.
This is a very spicy after party, apparently.
Nice. They have to go comb through fanfiction.net. Be like, is this him?
Good luck finding the one that is me that like doesn't have my name. And the thing is, the account that does have my name on it very clearly has my name. People will know it's me. And like, it also has spicy fan fiction. And the thing is, even if I wanted to, yes, Yuriv, I did write lemons. It's true. I like that people in my audience know what that word means in this context, because I was 20 when I found out what that word meant in this context, and I started writing fan fiction when I was like 14. So
could you define lemon for me, please?
So lemon in the context of like fanfiction.net is a like sort of internal way of saying sex. Like you wrote something with sex.
See, I know it as like slash, but that obviously probably shows my taste in fan fiction more than anything.
I haven't jumped into reading a lot of fan fiction.
They're
honestly.
really bad.
Yeah.
It's like, and part of it is you sometimes don't know what you're getting into until it's too late.
Yeah.
And so I just tend to avoid it altogether.
The thing is, like, nowadays, good fan fiction tends to become books. And this isn't always the case, because bad fan fiction can become books. There's a really famous book in, I think it's the, like, I'm pretty sure it's like the booktube community named After, which originally started as like a fan fiction. And also 50 Shades of Grey started as a fan fiction. And that's objectively a really bad book.
Oh, don't get me started on that, because it's a fan fiction of Twilight, which Twilight was written by a Mormon chick, and that explains why Twilight is so bad.
So the thing is, I don't actually hate Twilight. The first two books were really bad. The third book was actually like a really solid read, and the fourth book was okay. But the movies were just all over the place.
Okay.
They were like, ugh.
Okay, so part of it is because it was a Mormon writer, it became like a hit at church, and the girls were passing it around, and they were just
God.
oh my God, this is so romantic. And like, I read a little bit of it, and I was like, this is fucking abuse. Like,
it's not romantic. That's a really weird definition of romance.
It is. but you also have to understand, like, because the biggest selling point was like, look, she doesn't have sex until after she's married. This is a great book for the youth to read. And I'm like, no, no, it's not. Like, what the hell?
It features a lady who like gets married to a person who's over 100 and like almost dies giving birth to a demon baby.
I mean, it does follow the Mean Girls sex education, which is if you have sex, you will get pregnant and you will die.
You aren't wrong.
that was my biggest issue with it. Was like, to me it was like, it's cool if the girls want to read this. It's cool because I mean, you know, I'm not much for censorship, but it was practically advertised by youth leaders as something really good for the girls to read because there was no sex. And I was like, do you not see all of the other problems with this? Oh my God.
Also, like the biggest issue that I had with the books, and part of the reason I like the third book so much, is that like the universe is interesting, but so much time is spent describing Edward in the books. This is one of the reasons why some people could actually sit through like the movies, because like in the movies you see Edward and I guess he's hot. I guess. But like you don't have to spend literally like several minutes reading through just how hot he is. You see him in a scene and then there's other stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my sister loved the books. She doesn't love them as much. She still likes them. But I basically sat her down and I was like, look, I know they're touting this as like, you know, a super cool fantasy, but please remember, this is fantasy. And she goes, oh, I know. And then when it got super popular and like people were overtaking it, she was just like, I am now overwhelmed. There are too many people in my fandom. She's like, I'm going to go find another one.
Stay away from my sparkly vampires. Is that...
Honestly,
well, you know her.
I kind of get it.
She gets overwhelmed socially.
Yeah.
So that has part to play in it. But it was just like, there are too many crazies in my fandom. I think I'm going to switch fandoms now.
Yeah. Oh. Oh, but back to just a mention, like, because I was toting on and on about Todd in BoJack Horseman.
Yeah.
I get that BoJack Horseman isn't for everyone because it's a very depressing series. If you ever like start watching it and you're just like, what the hell is going on? Like, nobody's likable in BoJack Horseman. Like, they're like at least like 50 to 60% of the characters aren't likable. Sorry if I'm doing like an extreme segue, but like the thought just came like right back into my head.
This is an after party. Do all the segues you want. It's cool.
Okay. But about, I want to say the end of season 3 or like the majority of season 4 to 5, they come out that Todd, who is BoJack Horseman's roommate, is Ace. Like, and they treat it so very well. Like because there's a whole story arc where you find out that Todd is dating this girl that's his best friend. And then BoJack does some very shitty things, as he does. And apologies for the cursing. I don't know if that's a thing.
It's fine.
Okay. But like for trying not to be all spoilerific, but he does shitty things, and he basically breaks up Todd's friendship with him. And then it was like, because he steals his girlfriend from him. Is the best way I can describe what happens. And then Todd was like, well, I don't even think I like deserved to have a girlfriend or to be in love because like, I don't think I have the right to it because I think I'm Ace. Like, and he comes out to BoJack and then like he goes through like all these issues that like, because he's like, I don't have sexual feelings and like, I feel like I was like leading her on and toying with her. And then like it goes like into season 4, he actually forms a asexual support group with a series of friends that are also asexual. And they go through like a whole bunch of trials and tribulations about like trying to date while being asexual and like their misgivings and their feelings about it. And it's not treated as like comedy like Todd is usually treated. Like Todd is usually treated like the comic relief. Mm. And when it's actually going into the subject of his asexuality, they take the topic fairly seriously as something that is genuinely like affecting his identity. And it's really sweet. And something you never see ever anywhere. Like,
yeah, like I kind of didn't really go into it because I was talking about how our ace rep is we usually have to argue that they're the case that they may be ace. Like, one of my favorite TV shows, and don't shoot me, but one of my favorite TV shows was Gilmore Girls. And I loved it because even though she had a boyfriend, like that was not her focus. Like her focus was, I want to go to, I think it was
Harvard.
Harvard, yeah. She's like, I want to go to Harvard. So and she also graduated the same year I did. So we were like the same age and everything. And like like I said, she did have a boyfriend, but things never really got sexual with her until she hit college. And like, I loved having a story that was just about a girl living in this tiny ass little town with a bunch of weird characters and that wasn't really interested in sex, was kind of interested in boys, but like it was specific boys. Like she wasn't interested in boys in general. It was, this is somebody that I feel attracted to. This is my person. And I really resonated with that, but she wasn't ace. And she wasn't, but she was as close as I could get growing up without having to be like, oh, here's another one where she's dating every single guy and like it's all about the relationship drama. Because I mean, it was a part of it, but there was a lot of focus on all the characters and there was enough of a little bit of everything to make me happy.
Yeah. I always like to think that Rory and her frenemy Paris in the Gilmore Girls, I think they were both looking at them, they both like were more interested in getting into the great college than they were in like getting interested in boys.
Yeah.
And there was that really fantastic episode where Paris gets really depressed because she doesn't she thinks she's cursed herself because she ended up like agreeing to have sex with her boyfriend and then she thinks that's why she didn't get into Harvard. And she's like, she gets so mad at herself because she's like, I've been working so hard and then I lost focus because I thought I needed to do this. And then lo and behold, I don't get in. She
thought it was a punishment. Like,
yeah.
I'm a good girl and I finally did something that's not in the good girl rule book and now I'm getting punished for that.
Yeah.
And I like the way that they handled it because for those of you who don't watch Gilmore Girls, Paris was intense.
Very.
To put it lightly. She was not the nicest person in the world. She had a lot of issues, but she was one of those characters where you started off hating her, and then as she developed and grew, she did tone down a little bit, which kind of helped, but there was a lot of, it was definitely a personal growth character. But you see her break down and have this public breakdown. And Rory, the main character, you see at the end her sitting there giving the pep talk, even though technically Paris has not just ruined her own night, but Rory's night too.
Yeah.
And you see Rory sitting there going, it's okay, you didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with what you did. They were stupid for not letting you in. There's other colleges, you can go to Yale instead, or you can go to, other places. And I really like how they handled that, because it's like, yeah, a lot of people have that feeling after their first time.
Yeah. Like, it was like, I just wanted to do this to get it out of the way. And then it's like, I feel like I made a huge mistake because it wasn't as fantastic as I thought it was going, like, as everyone builds it up, that it's going to be this amazing of first times are never, ever amazing.
No,
like,
they're not.
They're awkward and uncomfortable.
Yeah, and what's funny is I identified a lot with Rory growing up, but as I've gotten older, I kind of dig Lorelai a lot more, and I also kind of understand Lane, because Lane, you can definitely argue she's asexual based on the information that's there, because Lane, the only time she talks about sex is 2 times.
Yeah.
And she had multiple boyfriends, but she only had sex with her husband. And she didn't have sex until she got married. And she pulls Rory to the side, and she says, "Oh my God, the sex was horrible. Why did nobody tell me it was going to be this bad?"
I feel that's something that people don't emphasize enough, that first time sexual experiences are usually terrible. Like, just awful.
And they never go back to it, and she doesn't have any more kids. So you're like, so you can actually question and be like, did she and her husband like ever work that out? Like, did they ever have sex again? Like, because she was sitting there with Rory, and she's like, you can tell me the truth, Rory. You can tell me how bad sex was. Why did you know?
Oh.
Folks are interested in like what folks are interested in what ace spaces are like, and honestly, we just spend a lot of time talking about Gilmore Girls. This is canon fact, and I mean, this is a queer space. This isn't quite an ace space, because we have one of our pals over here who's not ace, but like, it's all good. This is what it's like.
Yeah, I kind of see like pansexuality and asexuality and bisexuality too. But I kind of see them as like the cousins that you're actually closer to than your own siblings.
Same.
Yeah. like I am the support pan. I'm here to lift you up.
I actually think that like, I might be pan romantic, but I don't know enough of the distinctions between pan and bi romantic to be able to like voice that. So I'm not entirely sure.
I use the terms interchangeably. Like I go between, like, the reason I identify as pan mostly is because I like the flag more. It's just prettier to me personally. I love making puns about cast iron. And when I was first introduced to the definition of bi in high school, in the South, in public education, it was very much defined as it's an attraction to men or women, and that's it. Like, cut dry, that's all they're like, that's like, okay, there's straight, where you're attracted to the opposite sex. There's gay, where you're attracted to the same sex. And there's bi, where you're either attracted to men or women. And there's no in between. And I was just like, I think there's more than that. Like, could there be? Like, but I was just like, I identified as, like, I was like, I'm straight, but I find women beautiful, and I want to date women, but I also like I want more, like, because I was like, I feel like there's more out there. But it was like, the only definition I was given for bi was you like either men or women. And there wasn't even like a thing about non-binary or gender fluid or gender queer or none of the above. And when I came to pan and it was just like any, I'm just attracted to any, I was like, I like that one. That one I can identify with.
If pan is any, then it's probably better for me to say that I'm pan romantic, because like I know that some people use pan to mean any, but for me, when I say that like I can be romantically attracted to either gender, I mean like I can be romantically attracted to someone regardless of their gender.
Exactly. Same. Though, like, nowadays I've seen the definition for bisexuality and biromantic open up more to people that are the same gender as I am to people that are not the same gender as I am, which a lot of bisexuals and biromantics have been taking on more. And so then basically it's just like, well, bi and pan are really the same thing, but they're a level of personal preference.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like how some people love to use the word queer for themselves, but for other people, it still has so much history and baggage behind it that it's like they don't want to hear the word around them.
Yeah.
You know, I still struggle with calling myself queer because I feel like I'm acclimating to it a little bit, but at the same token, I've always been told that that word is not for me as
Yeah.
well. So, you know, that's part of why we have so many different definitions and so many different words is not necessarily because we want to complicate things. It's we're all complicated people with a lot of experience and our own baggage, and we have to pick and choose which ones go with what, and that's why there's generally not always a consensus on everything.
Yuriv in the comments just said that they remember taking class where the professor said something like sexuality is partially defined by personal experience. And I'm going to be making an asexuality o'clock, which is just the generic videos, not the live streams. The live streams are like a companion to asexuality o'clock, where I talk about the fact that for some folks, asexuality is partially dependent on like culture. As a Hispanic person, I come from a sex-negative society. A sex-negative society that's way more sex-negative than the United States, which is also sex-negative. But like because of that and because of the intense ways that Hispanic folks look at and discuss heterosexuality, I feel like me being ace, because for me, asexuality, I'm not one of the people who is like totally absent from sexual desire. I can experience it. I just experience it in very small amounts. But I feel like I'm probably closer to being just like allosexual than some white asexuals are.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, coming from being ex-Mormon kind of makes me almost militant sometimes and extremely passionate. I'm like, I am asexual because it was pushed so heavily that you're cis and you're gonna get in a heterosexual marriage. The end. Like, so for me, that does definitely color my experience quite a bit.
I mean, like, I grew up in a very large Catholic family, which was all Italian and Irish, and 7 kids one way, 8 kids another way. Uh, so very large potlucks. And it was, there was always a lot of love, but then, like, they would say very uh, hateful things about, like, homosexuality and queerness in general. Like I love my father, but I remember watching the news with him, and he made a blanket statement when I was like in high school, which was like, I don't care if the gays get married, I just don't want them to be around me. And he's like, they all need to go to an island where they can be married to themselves. And then, like, I'm just sitting there going, okay, I can't be queer in this house. Like, that's what my dad's saying. Even though, like, that's not what he was saying to me, it's what he was saying. And And then, like, I didn't come out until I moved out of my parents' house. And then it was like, I didn't come out to my parents. It was just suddenly like, I'm on social media and it's like, I'm pansexual. If you don't like it, you can talk to me about it or you can just get over it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I think my family figured out for the most part, except for my dad. But of course, you know my dad, he's a hermit.
Yeah.
like he's basically, his dream is to buy like a big house for all of us and then like have a shack.
Yeah.
That's his to live in and then show up for dinner and then like have nothing to do with anybody else outside of that. Castophine can tell you I'm not exaggerating about that.
I love Papa Bear so much. He is so great.
Old Bear has his issues, but he's awesome.
I talk a little bit lightly about like what it was like for me when I came out. But when I came out as ace, someone very, very close to me, a direct family member, called me and asked me if I had been sexually assaulted. And that was one of the defining things for me. That's one of the biggest memories I have, because I spent several years being in the asexual closet, and I came out as an atheist to my family almost immediately after realizing I was an atheist. But like my direct family, like the people that like I live with and the people I grew up with, had far more intense reactions to me being ace than they did to me being an atheist. And like when people talk about like staying in the closet and when people talk about like being worried about this sort of thing, I get it. Like, holy shit, I get it. Because my family's reactions, I don't think that like I can convey in words just how frightening that is a thing to be asked, but also like just how almost dehumanizing that is asked. Because there are some people who become asexual or who start to identify as asexual after being sexually assaulted. And I think that those are important members of our community who deserve to be here. And there are other asexuals who disagree with me on this one, which is horrifying. But like, regardless of whether you were or you weren't, even if it's coming from a place of like goodwill and not malintent, like it was in my family, that's still a hell of a question to be asked.
Right.
That's something that like disorients you.
As somebody, as somebody who, for whom their asexuality actually led to their assault, that's just as complicated a question and just as frightening, because it's like, no, I was asexual before my assault. I was ace always. I have always been ace. And they're like, but your assault, and it's like, no, my assault was because of that. Not the assault caused the aceness. The aceness was always there before the assault. And it makes it complicated for people who were assaulted in the ace community to actually talk about it, because we're so afraid of that stereotype being labeled on us, and then everybody going around and asking, hey, were you assaulted? Is that what caused you being ace? And it makes it very complicated for people to be open in the spaces where they should really have the ability to talk the way that they need to in order to heal and be accepted.
There's a YouTuber who is queer themselves, and they made a video saying that asexuals aren't queer. And just, oh my goodness. I've thought long and hard about doing a direct video response to this video. And like, other aces got me kind of messed up on this video. If people are curious, I can link the video. If you two are curious and you want to see the video I'm talking about yourselves, you definitely can. And in the person's defense, they seem to be talking about heteroromantic aces, not biromantic aces. But all aces are queer. And like, this person said that there was no history of discrimination, and that is categorically untrue. It is objectively and demonstrably untrue. There is a long history of corrective sexual assault on not just ace folks, but including on people who explicitly identify as ace. This is a problem that's been going on in the United States, and the person is trans. And I have a feeling that they're like one of those oppression Olympics people who think you have to have like a certain level of discrimination, which is just, holy shit, that's a bad idea. Just, no, it's untrue.
Oh, it's not who has the shittier life. We can all just identify with what we are. Like, oh, that's so hateful.
From my perspective, it's not about oppression Olympics. It's, do our goals align? And not every single one of them has to align, but if there are goals that we want to work towards, like we were talking earlier about, we want more sex education. Well, that's not just an ace thing. That should be there for trans people. That should be there for everybody in the queer community. Hell, it's for everybody, period. So if that's one of my goals and it aligns with LGBTQ plus goals, then I should be able to get into that space and put the work in for a goal that I have personal investment in. And and there's more than that. There's more than that particular goal, but that's just the one that talks in just the one that popped into my head. But it's like, why separate ourselves when, if we have goals that we need to work towards, it's better to work as a unit instead of a fragmented group. And by aces and arrows, you are turning away people who may damn well be wanting to work for the exact same things you are.
Yeah.
I think that like it is going to take ace folks getting representatives. And as dope as it is that 2 representatives for ace folks online are atheistic, ultimately at some point we're going to need theistic folks too. And if any theistic asexuals want to come on, I'd be super down to talk to them, because the reality is, like, all the people I've interviewed have been atheists, but that's not been by design. That's just been like, I've wanted to talk with folks who are minoritized and marginalized, and as a consequence, and because of the social circles that I run in, and because of my audience, those folks happen to be atheistic. I would absolutely be super down to talk to anyone who wants to talk about like asexuality and stuff, but also like, I have a personality that I can have these sorts of conversations, which is not something everyone does. And also I have a personality where I can debate people. I've debated white nationalists, but like the videos that were taken of those are not going to be made public. They were like for podcasts and stuff. And I've debated like all sorts of people. And that's because I have a specific personality type that does well at these sorts of things. It's just that like, I don't particularly like debating, and I feel like debating like queerness is very dumb, which is part of the reason why the video that I mentioned earlier annoyed me so much. Like, I think it's about 2 years old now, and it is just a very bad video. And I said that some of the aces got me messed up because there were some aces in the comment section of that video who were like, oh, I thought you were going to be super rude, but you weren't. You were super respectful. That's not true. The person in the video was very unrespectful, but because he spoke in a calm tone, like, people are just like, oh, you're speaking calmly, therefore you must be respectful.
No.
How it works.
No. I've been having that conversation a lot lately. Like, abusive words are still abuse no matter what tone you say them in. Now, it's scarier to hear them in certain tones. It is scarier to hear them in certain tones, but that doesn't mean that they're not abusive.
Yeah.
And I'm glad nobody who is ex-Mormon is currently watching me right now.
I would fight them. I would fight them.
I know. Thank you. I know I have backup. I have the best backup in the world.
I do think like most after parties on my channel tend to be about an hour. I'm not gonna like end this right now, but do you guys want to keep going for a little bit longer, or are y'all ready to call it a night?
I'm good. What about you, Capstrophine?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, I know we turned into like kind of like a serious place, but
I mean, I think it's important. Like, some of the serious stuff is stuff that I would feel uncomfortable talking about alone, because like when I recount the conversation that I had with my family member, I've long thought about filming a video, and I actually I recently spoke at a queer atheistic conference. And it was the first time I talked about being asexual in like such a public setting that wasn't me on my YouTube channel talking to my audience of subscribers. I had a panel that talked about queer Latinidad, so like being Hispanic and also being queer. And I talked about it in like secular spaces versus in purely Hispanic spaces, and in the overlap. I was one of the folks. The other two people, one of them was a genderqueer person who was bisexual, and then the other one was a cis woman who was bisexual. And I talked about like coming out to my family and the reaction that I got. And like every time I do, my heart just it starts like hammering out of my chest. And I have anxiety, and I have like anxiety attacks. And I'm just like, oh man, if I tried to film this by myself, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. So
yeah.
yeah. Now, I am going to state that there was some things that I kind of left out because I know that they're kind of what Bub is going to ask me. One of those things is, how did you leave Mormonism? Because I know that, because that's actually what piqued his interest, was I said I was resigning from the church. And Bub is ex-Catholic.
yeah, more ex-Catholic people.
So he was like, so I could hear the kind of the wheels turning. It's like, so what's it like to resign from the church? Like, it's a completely different process. It's completely, it's one of the things where, it's one of the things where I would argue it might actually be easier to leave the Mormon church than it is Catholicism, because of the different attitudes towards leaving.
Yeah.
But he was just like, I kind of want to know what that process is because I defected, so I want to know.
Yeah.
So I've left that out. But my asexuality is directly linked to me actually leaving my church. It is completely linked to it. I would have stayed and gotten married and had kids otherwise.
So Yvonne is asking some questions. I think it might be worth like teasing tomorrow's interview.
Okay. So with Catholicism, you're always Catholic. You're Catholic, the end, until you die. With Mormonism, you're Mormon until you're too much of a nuisance. If you get too loud, if you bring bad press, if you say too many bad things, if they use excommunication as a way to delegitimize you from Mormonism, and it's happening more and more often. I know of at least 20 different excommunications in the past year.
Yeah.
So it's basically, you're always Mormon until you either resign or you get kicked out. And if you resign, we're going to make it hard as hell for you. But if you get kicked out, we're going to also smear you so that no Mormon in the church will listen to you. Because they've had to fess up and state all the lies that they told us as kids. And they're trying to keep people from figuring out all the lies.
Yeah.
So the best way to do that is to say, hey, that person's an anti-Mormon, and they're telling all sorts of bad, naughty things about us.
So it's worth noting that Wonder Lady pointed out in the chat just now, but you actually can leave the Catholic Church. The basic idea in Catholicism, the way that I understood it as both an ex-Catholic and as a historian, is that there's this idea that was long debated in the Catholic Church that is kind of like two conceptions of Christianity. One wherein you can be a Christian and then not be a Christian, and then another where once you're a Christian, once you're baptized, you're always a Christian, even if at some point you profess that you no longer believe. And the Catholic Church debated about how to do this process and about how to handle people who are no longer members of the faith. I'm pretty sure that Wonder Lady is correct that like you can write a letter and you can be de-Catholicized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you have to, at least my understanding for the people I know that have gone through the process of excommunication is you have to write to your diocese and your bishop, specifically instructing them that you are not following the tenets of the Catholic Church and that you don't plan on following the tenets of the Catholic Church and that you are requesting to be excommunicated. The bishop has to approve it and then has to forward it on to the cardinal. The cardinal has to approve it and then forward it on to the pope. Like, that is, it sounds very dramatic, but I think it's literally like a letter system. But it's meant to be kind of dramatic in that sense. And most, like, for the most part, it's just easier just not to go to church anymore and become lapsed Catholic than it is to go through the whole rigmarole of reaching out to the bishop and stating, no, I don't believe in Catholicism anymore. Because, like, the Catholics won't, like, the Catholic Church won't hunt you down to your house and ask you where you've been, sort of thing. Anymore.
Oh, the Mormon Church still does that, and that's actually one of the biggest reasons why I want out, is because at some point my family was talking about moving, and I don't want the new bishop in the next location to be like, oh, this person's inactive, new project.
Yeah.
Because when you move, your records with the church move. Yeah, and there's a file on me, and it says all the things I have and haven't done, including any sins I might have gotten disciplined for, which I was there. Okay, I was in survival mode, and I did some dumb shit when I first left the Mormon church. But one of the things that I did that kind of clicked in that helped me survive was not going to my bishop and confessing that I had broken the law of chastity, as they call it in the Mormon church. Like, I did not go to my bishop and say, hey, I had sex, because that would have hospitalized me, I think, at the very least. But and I don't want to go too much into the process because, like I said, I'm pretty sure that's a question Bub is going to want to ask me tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much, you are always Mormon until we need to shut you up and silence you, is essentially what it is. Once they feel the need that they need to silence you and discredit you, they will throw you under the bus and excommunicate you. And an excommunication is basically like set up like this weird ass spiritual trial where you actually go and you hear and they list off the things that you've done wrong, and you can have people to your defense. But we all know that by the time that you get the excommunication letter, 99% of the time your fate's already decided and you're either going to get disfellowshipped or excommunicated.
Yeah. See, what I always thought was funny was when you were talking to me about that and you went that I had more of a chance of going to Mormon heaven not being a Mormon than you did once you get excommunicated.
Yeah, once I resign, you get to go to a level of heaven. I get to go to the only version of Mormon of hell, and the only people who go to the Mormon version of hell are the people who left them, who truly believed and then left the church.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting that, like, in more I'm not going to say mainstream versions of Christianity, although there are some people who say that Mormonism is a different religion altogether. In more mainstream versions of Christianity, the only, like, explicitly unforgivable sin is the sin of blasphemy. And blasphemy in the context of the Bible is defined a little bit differently than blasphemy is in, like, a legal setting, because for several years, for like a long ass time, blasphemy was illegal in the UK, and I'm pretty sure that it was never, like, federally illegal in the United States. Might be wrong though. I'd have to like fact check myself on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that essentially Mormons believe that the president of their church, the big head honcho, they teach that he actually directly talks with God and gives information for the entire world. So when you leave Mormonism, what you're saying is that you no longer believe that the person who talks to God is talking to God, and therefore you are, by default, you're also not following God's will, so now you're following the path of Satan. And so therefore, because you are purposely and knowingly following the path of Satan according to them, like you're supposed to know better, so therefore your punishment is greater, kind of deal. So basically, as far as they're concerned, I am now worshiping Satan. So that kind of plays into it. It's just like, yeah, no.
Oh. And see, I'm just a lost lamb. I haven't found the Mormon church, so there's still a chance.
I mean, kind of same.
There's that chance because you haven't heard the truth and you haven't denied the truth, that you can learn the truth in the next life and accept it.
Tria, I'm ready for you to corrupt me, okay?
Show me your ex-Mormon ways.
Please lead me to the dark side. I don't want to go to Mormon heaven.
That's all right. I'll break in and drag you out. There's only passwords for the top tier. Pretty sure.
Find my planet.
No, you don't get a planet unless you get married in the Mormon temple. Remember?
Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't there to learn. I only know by your example. So
this after party has turned into Shade Space. I do think that at this point, this is actually really fun, but I need to go and get some food and get ready for bed tomorrow. So I am actually going to end the stream. But awesome. Before I do, I hope that folks go and subscribe to Tria. I'm gonna say the name and I'm gonna butcher it. So I'm prefacing this so that way when people are like, hey, that's not how you say it, I know.
Castor
has a YouTube channel, but only in the YouTube channel, only in the sense that everyone who leaves a comment has the YouTube channel. But if people wanted to follow you anywhere, would they be able to do so since you joined us and we had a grand old time for the last hour?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, though I'm not really on Twitter, but all of them are under CAFSURFINE. I grabbed it when I was 12 and I just ran with it. So it's gonna follow me till I die.
Us and our unpronounceable made up names when we were teenagers.
If it makes y'all feel any better, Zal, the DM for Chaotic Roll, also has their name online for the same reason.
But yeah, send me a friend request on all of my social medias. If you send me a friend request on Facebook, just message me that you met me through this YouTube thing, because if we don't have mutual friends, I'll be staring at your profile being like, who are you? Get away from me, stranger. That's my person. I don't know you.
Danger.
Exactly.
So something I recommend, if you do want to gain folks from this, I don't know if that's what you want to do, but if you do want to connect with people here, in a hot second, this will finish rendering and you can come in and you can comment your Twitter link.
Okay.
Twitter is where I'm the most active, so I'll follow you on Twitter. I'm very not active on other social medias. So
yeah, my Twitter is linked to my Instagram, so you'll see all of my Instagram photos on my Twitter. Otherwise, I'm not super active on Twitter. I used to have a Tumblr too, but
I have a Tumblr, but ever since the pen purge, for some reason I don't feel comfortable saying the word penis, even though we've said other words. I jokingly referred to it as the pen purge in an earlier video, which is probably the reason I made that dumb reference just now. But ever since then, Tumblr's been weird.
Yeah.
Also, you can still find all the sexy body parts that you want on Tumblr if you look. My girlfriend's very into Tumblr, and she tells me all the time that nudity has not been removed from Tumblr. That whole purge thing, it very much failed.
Just mostly people in the queer space and the sex workers making a living. Yeah.
Very unfortunate. Tumblr was great for sex workers. I have several sex worker friends who like used Tumblr, whether they were like femme girls or other types of sex workers. And it sucks. I made a video about this if new people want to go back and check it out in like December. So
I'm gonna have to go binge through your things. So, but yeah, I'm under every single username I have online is under Calves Are Fine. So that's how you find me.
Yeah.
And it should like have a picture of my face as my user image on everything. So like, nice. And then you'll find out what my real name is. It's not like a super secret. But
my real name is Luciano, but no one else here has to say their real name if they don't want to. But also, my name is like, my old channel name used to be Luciano Gonzalez. That was what it was for like a year when I was first making YouTube videos. And then one of my friends was like, hey, maybe you should change it to something catchier. I'm like, well, I already have the L. I'll just go with Logic.
See, I honestly thought your username was something like a Pokemon reference. Because it's obviously very catchy.
Well, like, the thing is, honestly, I really liked having my name be mine. I just thought that made it, like, really snazzy and professional looking. And then someone's like, hey, maybe it'll be better if you do, like, something else. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give that a shot. And I'm at 400 subscribers now, and I was at, like, 100 when that happened, so I guess it worked.
I mean, like, I have a super, super common Irish Catholic name, if any of you friend me. I went to high school with 3 girls that had my first and last name. Like, just telling you how common that level of Irish Catholic name was.
The first time I met someone with a name that was almost the same as mine was in Honduras, and she was a lady. Her name, she had my name, but like at the end there was an extra N and then an A. So it was Lucian and then Enna. And mine is Luciano.
Very nice. But it's everybody that I've met online calls me, like all my internet friends know me as Capser or Capser Fine. So I go by all sorts of names.
Also, I really like that I heard Tria's little nope just now on Wonder Lady. So Tria can see the comments. And she's responding to a joke comment by Wonder Lady. And she very quietly said nope just now.
It was a knee-jerk reaction.
I want to know the secrets.
So
Wonder Lady asked if it was Margaret Mary O'Toole.
Nope. No, close, but nope.
Well, guys, I've had a lot of fun. I hope that everyone here who isn't already subscribed to Tria goes and subscribes.
Please do. I need the 100.
Yes, please. let's get Tria to 100. That would be a dope goal. That would be great. So Tria, if you want to message me Casper's social media stuff, I'll go back in the link. I'll go back in the description of this video and I'll add them in so that way people can go check her out. Also, I hope if those aren't your pronouns, please let me know. That was my bad.
That the she, her are my pronouns.
Cool.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I feel like y'all don't know what you're getting into, but anyway.
Become my friends and then see me post so much things.
I don't post that much anywhere. It's just that I post more on Twitter than anywhere else. But good night, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Good night.
Bye.